we are going to do 11-3 geometric sequences. You will have a formula just like yesterday when we were talking about arithmetic sequences. In arithmetic, if you remember, you were adding by a certain amount every time to get the sequence. Geometric, you are multiplying by something every time. So you will have to memorize this formula, and you will have some similar questions like last night, except for it's talking about geometric instead of arithmetic. So you can also find a formula for a geometric sequence. In this case, is asking to find the formula for the nth term of the sequence, and it'll give you the sequence of 3, -12, 48, -192, and it will continue on. So we're going to use this formula up here to find the nth term, so that's why I'm writing it in terms of Tn equals, we know our first term is 3 times r. And r is what we multiply everything by each time, kind of like how we had d with our arithmetic. In this case, it's r. So in order to find out what r is, you have to take the second divided by the first, and you would end up getting -4. So we'll plug in -4. We know that we're finding the nth term, so we just plug it in, and it's n minus 1. We cannot multiply 3 times -4 to simplify this, because if you remember your rules of exponents, it's exponents first and then multiplication. So this is your nth term or formula for this particular sequence. It could ask you to find a certain term in the sequence. This time it's going to ask you to find the 6th term for the following sequence. Okay. So we're going to plug in what we know. We're going to use the equation at the top of our paper. So we're finding the 6th term. The first term is 3. We know that 12 divided by 3 is -4. And n is 6 minus 1. So now we can simplify this so we can find an actual answer. Make sure you do your order of operations. We would have 3 times -4. 6 minus 1 is 5. You're going to do -4 to the 5th power, which is -1024. And then you can multiply it by -3, or +3, which would give you -3072. So that means that this is our 6th term. Some of your homework questions could ask you to find the 7th term for a geometric sequence in which the 2nd term is 24 and the 5th term is 3. This is very similar to last night's notes as well, because when you try to solve for the 7th term using your formula, you would have T7 equals, you don't know what your first term is, you don't know what your R is because you don't have the first one, you have the 4th, you don't have the 3rd, or the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, I'm writing 4th. My computer's not writing. There we go. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, and we know that this is the fifth term. So we have the second term and we have the fifth term. But we don't have the first, and there's no way to find the ratio here of what you're multiplying by, so we don't know what r is. We know we're finding the seventh term, so we have 7 minus 1, but you still have two variables here. And so since you have two variables, you have to use these two terms in order to find the r and the first term, just like you did before with system of equations. So we know that our second term is 24. I'm plugging this into my geometric equation at the top of my paper. I don't know the first term. I don't know my ratio. But I know that I have the second term, so n is 2, minus 1. Let's plug in for the fifth term. I know that the fifth term is 3. I don't know the first term. I don't know my ratio, but I know that it's going to be 5 minus 3 because it's n minus 5, or n minus 1. And so let's simplify what we have. I have 24 equals the first term times 2 minus 1, which is just 1. I have 3 equals T1 times R. 5 minus 1 is 4. So since we're multiplying, we're not going to use system of linear equations because there's no addition sign here, like there was with the arithmetic ones last night. So what you want to use is substitution. So we're going to use this top one right here, and let's get T1 by itself. So if we have 24 equals T1 times R, and R to the 1 is just R, we can go ahead and divide both sides by R, and you would have 24 over R equals your first term. You can then substitute that in for T1. So we'd have 3 equals 24 over R, times R to the 4th power. So if you look at your R's, 4 and 1, well, you can reduce those, correct? So R to the 4th divided by R to the 1, it's subtraction, right? So you have 3 equals 24. 4 minus 1 is 3. And now we want to get R by itself, so I can divide both sides by 24. These would be gone. And I know that 3 goes into 24 8 times. 3 goes into 3 once, so I have 1 over 8. So 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. R to the 3rd. And this is like if you had like an R squared. If it was an R squared, you know you would square root both sides, right? But since it's to the 3rd power, you have to cube root both sides. So you would have the cube root of 1 over the cube root of 8 equals R, because the 3's would go away. You don't have to write plus or minus because it's an odd number. The cube root of 1 is 1. The cube root of 8 is 2. So you know that your R equals 1/2. But we still need to know what T1 is. So we found our R. We have to find what our first term is. So we can go and look at this, and we would have 24 divided by our 1/2. And if you remember, that's just 24 times, take the reciprocal and multiply, times 2 over 1. 24 times 2 is 48. So that means that your first term is 48. So now you have your first term, and you have your R. Then you can plug that back into what we were trying to figure out up here when we started. Okay, this guy right here. So let's go ahead and use our equation and plug in everything we know so that we can answer the question, which was to find the seventh term. So we'll use our geometric formula that's at the top of our notes. We are finding the seventh term. We know that the first term is 48. We know that r is a half. We know that n is 7 minus 1. So now we just simplify. We have the seventh term equals 48 times 1 half to the 6th. So we have to do order of operations. So we have 1 half squared over 2. 1 half over 2 to the 6th power. So remember, you distribute the 6 to both. So 1 to the 6th is 1. 2 to the 6th is 64. Now you can multiply that by 48. So you'd have 48 times 1 is 48. 1 times 64 is 64. You can reduce this to be 3/4. So that means that your seventh term is 3/4. And you have answered the question. Example number 4 is going to ask you first to find the geometric mean, instead of the arithmetic mean, of 4 and 9. In order to find a geometric mean, you will have this formula. Whatever your two numbers are, you multiply them together and square root it. Or if for some reason A and B are negative, you would just have negative in the front and then A times B. So here we have 4 and 9. We're just going to have 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36. The square root of 36 is 6. So your geometric mean is 6. What if I asked you to insert 3 geometric means between 1 half and 1 over 162? Okay. So that means you're starting with 1 half and you are trying to find what 3 numbers or 3 means can fit between 1 half and your last number, 162. So we're going to use our geometric formula. And we're going to use this last one to help us find our r so that we can find the ratio here. So let's say the last term here is 1 over 162. Our first term is a half. We don't know what r is. We know that this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so the 5th term. And we will solve for r. I have 1 over 162 equals 1 half r. 5 minus 1 is 4. I'm going to get rid of my 2 here for my 1 half. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. 2 goes into 162 times, or 162 81 times. So I have 1 over 81 equals r to the 4th. Now I'm going to take the 4th root of r to get rid of it. Since it is an even number, you're going to have plus or minus, so don't forget your plus or minus. The 4th root of 1 is 1. The 4th root of 81 is 3 equals r. So this is your ratio. It is either 1/3 and I should actually say, negative 1/3. So you have to find those possibilities. So let's look up here. We start with 1/2, and we have to find the next 3 terms and end with 1 over 162. So 1/2 times, let's start with the positive 1/3, is going to be 1/6. 1/6 times 1/3 is 1/18. 1/18 times 1/3 is 1 over 54. And 1 over 154 times 1/3 is 1 over 162. So these are your first answers. Then you have to find the negative ones. So it's going to be the same thing, except for every other one is going to be negative. So I'll have 1/2 times negative 1/3 is negative 1/6. Negative 1/6 times negative 1/3 is 1 over 18. 1 over 18 times negative 1/3 is going to be a negative 1 over 54. Negative 1 over 54 times negative 1/3 is 1 over 162. So these are your second set of answers. So you would have 3 for the first one and 3 for the second one for your 3 geometric means.